Hi everyone and welcome back to my top 500 games. We are continuing on today with number 382. Now, this is a game that I know some people are going to say that it should be higher, but this is my list and I don't feel like it should be higher, so this is where I'm putting it. And that is Sly Cooper and the Thieves Raccoonus. I didn't play this game originally on the PS2, I played this originally on the PS3 collection disc, the Sly trilogy that you could get. I got it on Christmas of 2010. I remember I got it for myself for that Christmas, and I played it to completion within the next 5 days. So before 2011 started, I completed it in that little time frame there. To me, this is I would sort of describe it as one of those, if you took a good platform game from the PS1, sort of the PS2 maybe era, if you took one of those games and I had the quality downgraded just a bit so that it was simplified quite a bit, this is what you'd get. Not bad by any means. There's nothing about this game that I can say is a bad thing. I just felt like it didn't do enough for me to really want to rank it any higher than that, which is a shame really. But basically the game is a platform game. You have to go around these different worlds and unlock the different safes, and you unlock different powers from within these different saves, which I suppose could be interesting if there was a bit more variety to it, I suppose, but even still, the variety to it wasn't that bad. I think my main problem with the safes was that you actually had to type in the code, so to speak, when you were giving it. You, like, Bentley would say, the code is 327, and then you'd have to actually manually put in 327, which seemed a bit strange. But the game was a decent game, platform game. You go around, you collect the clue bottles, which is just your basic collectible type thing. You know, jumping on platforms, sneaking around edges and stuff, which I suppose is kind of a unique Sly type thing for this type of game. Swinging across ropes and all the hooks and that type of thing, I suppose. Yeah, it was something that I could definitely say is a decent platform game. I honestly do not at all think that this is worthy of that much praise. I don't think this is one of those. I don't think it has a spot amongst the classics, but I can't really think of a bad thing to say about it, really. It's one of those types of games, I suppose. Moving on, we have number 381, and this is actually, I believe, so far from all the games we've mentioned, the newest game that I have played of all of the games so far, and that is Beach Buggy Racing. And what I mean by that is that I first played this game in 2016, so that's very, very recent compared to everything else that has been on this list so far. But yeah, it's a PS4 game. I got it on a bundle because it was in a sale, and it's a sort of like a kart racing game, and it's alright. There I am again saying it's alright again, but that's true, it's alright. I seem to remember, I say I seem to remember as if it was ages ago. It wasn't ages ago, but I do remember that there were some things about it that I found quite annoying. I am less of a fan of kart racing weapons than most people are, it seems. I'm not as into it as a lot of people are, and this game has them. And I have often felt at some point that it has a bit too much randomness to whereby I have felt like I am doing well, but because something random happened, I'm pushed back a bit. I don't know, I haven't really felt as strongly about this game as I have with some other kart racing games that I have played. But what it does have is it does have a sense of progression, which I like. It has a sense of you building up points and money and, you know, that kind of stuff that you can spend to upgrade your cars. You can unlock new characters with new powers, so you can choose different powers, so it has that bit of a strategic element to it, I suppose, and I like that. Moving on to number 380 is Tomb Raider Legend. Now, to me, how do I describe this? I like the game, obviously I like the game, but I do have problems with this game compared to previous games in the series which I have had a much different experience with, but with Tomb Raider Legends in particular, some things that I didn't like. For example, I didn't like how your medipacks reset in between levels. Didn't like that at all. I didn't necessarily like the level structure, really, in that it felt like you went from one room to the next room in sort of this linear fashion, and there didn't really seem to be any puzzles in this grand scheme where you'd have to learn the level and figure out your way through it. It was just a case of puzzle one at a time, one after the other. But saying that, some of the puzzles I felt were pretty good. I remember one, for example, whereby there's these doors that, not doors, these walls that sort of slam into you, so you have to like push a block and use the block as sort of like a barrier. It's not fantastic by any means, but you know, it does have the standard put a block onto a switch so that you can then go through the door, because if you were to otherwise just stand on it, it would then deactivate once you left it. You know, basic stuff like that. It does have that, but it's not too much. You know, I think you have that once, that's okay. I prefer it not to be much at all, but you know. The 379 is Geometry Wars Evolved. This game I didn't play too much of, but I did have quite a bit of a blast when I did play it. I believe it was the Xbox 360 arcade version that I did play, and the best way to describe it is that you play as this little spaceship thing in this 2D plane, and it's a twin stick shooter, and enemies sort of like form out of nowhere and they fly towards you. You have to fly out the way and then shoot them and they explode. Really not much to say, but yeah, that's that. Number 378 is Pac-Mania, which is a sort of Pac-Man sequel, maybe? I don't know. I don't feel comfortable calling it a sequel. Sort of like a later version of Pac-Man, but it was strange. It was like you had these 3D graphics. So it kind of looked like you were going up and down from this weird particular angle, but left and right was still left and right on the screen, even though up and down had a slight tilt, like a diagonal tilt to it, which did look quite strange. And you had these different levels. So you had the first level, which was like Lego blocks, and the second level was this weird neon wireframe type thing. And the third level was these sort of sand dunes, like a sandy area with all these weird pyramidy blocks, and then you had the last level, which was like a jungle. But it was like each level was set out differently, and you could also jump over the ghosts, which I don't think you could do that in the early levels, but in the later levels, like the last level, you had to do that because the ghosts were very fast. You couldn't outrace the ghosts in that last level. You had to jump over them, so it's a bit different. I believe I had this on the Mega Drive, but I know someone who had... No, sorry, no. I believe I had this on the Amiga, but I think I knew someone had it on the Master System. Number 377 is Prehistoric, which was a game on the Amiga, and this is one of the games that I didn't really get too far in it, because it got pretty hard. It was one of those games whereby you seem to die pretty fast, although I couldn't tell you specifically how many hits it was till you lost a life. But you basically had to collect so much food and then get to the end of the level. And every alternate level was a boss. So you'd have the first level, which is a platform level. You had to like jump between different caves, and you had to jump over fires within the cave. You had to be very precise with the jumping as well, because the jumping, you didn't really seem to cover much range with that, but you did have to jump over like fires and stuff. And you had to, I remember, bash through these rocks, and you could get a power up which was an axe, which was like a more powerful attack. But I remember the frames between things such as the enemies popping out of the cave for you to attack them, and the enemies sort of like being hazed and then coming back. It was very sudden, and I think that's what kind of added to the difficulty. I do remember there was a part in the first level where you could go underwater and collect some fruit, and there was a part with the balloon that you flew across where there's piranhas jumping out at you. And I also remember on the second level, which may have been the first I got, not the second level, sorry, the third level. The second level was a boss. The second level was a weird boss, which was this giant dinosaur that just stood there and did nothing as you attacked its toes, which is weird as all the little baby dinosaurs came out. And then the third level was like this icy platforming level. But I remember there was these bridges whereby the bridges were on a slightly higher ledge than the actual floor, so if you just walk, you'd walk off, but you had to do like a little jump so you could actually be on the bridge, which sounded sound really strange, but I think that caught me off guard quite a bit. And I remember I quite like the music of this game as well. Number 376 is The Flying Hamster HD, which is a strange name and it's a strange game. I have it on the PS Vita and it's basically like a shoot 'em up but whereby you control a hamster and you're flying through these different levels. And I think the levels have a bit more creativity in the visual style to them as to what you'd expect in these sort of side-scrolling shoot 'em up games. But yeah, it's a strange game, and as strange as it is, I can't really think of anything else to say about it, so I'm just going to move straight on. I know that was very quick, but I'm going to move straight on to number 375, which is Crystal Defenders. This is sort of like a tower defense game, which is based on the Final Fantasy Tactics style theme, like the more so Tactics Advance, like with those types of creatures, like the Ivalice saga. So you've got the Numus and the Viera and all that, and those types of graphics. And the way that it works is just like a tower defense game would. You spend crystals to put them onto this level, and when you hit go, the enemies come out and your characters go out and they do their attacks, or slow them down or do whatever. So the idea is you're supposed to sort of synergize them, so you use the mages that slow them down, the time mages, so that they can slow the enemies down in this area whereby there's going to be lots of things attacking them, and you've got to also measure based on the path. So say if something goes around like this big bend, if you put something on the corner of that bend, it's going to have more things around there. But of course each unit can only attack one enemy at a time or so you've got to consider all those things, and you can also use your crystals to level your units. But I do remember that I pretty struggled with this game. I do remember having a hard time with it. I remember there was a sort of connection between how many creatures you let through, which ended up deducing your crystals, and how much of a reward you got overall. And I think I found it quite hard to measure between the two, like how well you had to do in order to get how much. And you could also level up your units as well, and I did have quite a bit of trouble with this game, but I did enjoy trying to work out all the quirks of the individual units and how they all worked. Number 374 is The Misadventures of PB Winterbottom. This is sort of like a 2D puzzly game, but it's sort of got a time feature thingy whereby it's one of those games where you do a thing and then you rewind time so that your shadow self can go and do that thing, so that then you can use your current self to react to what you did in the past. One of those types of games. It had a very strange visual style to it, all very black and white, that type of style. Lots of grayscale, pretty like a drawn style to it. I don't think I got too far on it, but I remember there was quite a bit of challenge in working out some of the puzzles. It wasn't like dead easy, obvious puzzles where you just got to make sure that you can do it. There was some times where you did have to stop and think, and I like that. I do like that. Number 373 is 4 Elements HD. This is a PS3 game that's compatible with the PS Move, and I have a PS Move, but even still, I think I just prefer using the controller. I think it was kind of designed around mouse controls because, you can get it on PC, but I played it on the PS3, and the idea is you have this grid of all these different coloured things, and you have to sort of draw through them to connect all the ones of the same colour, which will make them disappear, and you have to get this liquidy stuff or gassy stuff or whatever, this stuff that just flows through the level. You have to get it to the end of this path, and along the way you'll come across weird little puzzles, not amazing puzzles, but just things where you'll unleash like a cannon that will shoot stuff out and break ice, or it will cause this massive chain reaction which goes along and breaks a bunch of stuff. And you have this whole series of levels, and you've got to score points and all that, and you can use your points to sort of upgrade your castle and get these little upgrades and stuff, which is pretty nice. It's a pretty nice game. But moving on to the next game, and this is a game that I imagine some people will take issue with me ranking it this low. Number 372 is Super Mario 64. So yeah, another N64 game that I never had on the N64 because I didn't have an N64. But I did actually own this game on the Wii Virtual Console eventually, and I did manage to play through a few levels. But my main memories of this game weren't so much playing it, but its release, because I remember it coming out. I don't remember the year exactly. I don't remember if it was a launch console with a launch game with the N64, but I do remember it coming out, and I do remember being vividly aware of it coming out. And I remember seeing in a game shop there being a TV screen where they sort of had this demo playing on loop, and me sort of finding it interesting seeing Mario in 3D running around collecting all these coins. But if I play it, I generally find it's pretty hard to control, which I know is what some people seem to feel that way, but it's not. I can't say it's a bad game because it isn't. It does have some fun elements to it, and even just playing, the first level, just it's enjoyable. Like running up the mountain, trying to avoid those big black bomb boulder things. I don't know what they're meant to be. They're like boulders, but I know that level's based on bombs. But I do know it does get quite ludicrous with the whole rainbow road and everything later on, or the rainbow path or whatever it's called. I forget. And I've never been a massive fan of the 3D Mario platforming when it comes to, doing multiple jumps so that you can do a big jump. But I've never really had a problem with Mario platforming at its core, like just the idea of Mario platforming. I'm talking nonsense, aren't I? I should probably just move on to the next game. Number 371 is Worms Crazy Golf. I don't have too much to say about this game, but if you imagine Worms, but instead of like aiming missiles and stuff, imagine just a golf ball and trying to play golf. It's basically that. Apart from there are times where you do have to like collect these coins, like use the golf ball to collect coins and stuff. Again, I don't like it when I don't have much to say about these games, but there are some games where I really don't have that much to say. But yeah, that's Worms Crazy Golf. I don't remember how far I got. I remember I didn't just play, I remember I did play quite a few levels. I did get, not really far, but I got to a rather decent point, and it didn't get too hard for me, I don't think, but I do remember there was a few levels where it was really tricky and I wasn't sure how I was meant to go about it, but I do remember, and I did like the whole aiming the ball thing in this sort of 2D golf style game. I don't know if there's many other games like that, now that I think about it, like 2D golf games. You'd have like golf games which is like overhead, like mini golf that way, but not like a side-on view, which is strange. But yeah, that's Worms Crazy Golf for you. Anyway, I'm going to end this part here, so thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time where we'll continue on with number 370. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.